Beyonce, I was actually with her the last halftime show that she did, and she always is very inspiring and gives great advice. You know, she's a very focused and genuine performer. I believe in a passion for inclusion. I believe in the spirit of equality. And the spirit of this country as one of love and compassion and kindness. So my performance will uphold those philosophies.
So there's a group of people around the world that self-identify as being Illuminati. And if you question them about this, they will say that they worship the light. Now, what light are they referring to? They are referring to the light and guidance of a fallen angel known as Satan, known as Lucifer. And that's what it is. That's the light they worship.
Like, if you don't get this right now, I swear to Lucifer. Swear to Lucifer. Swear to Lucifer. I'm gonna, I get a little bit mad.
Hey, what's up guys? Gons here for the Face Like the Sun YouTube channel. So here's the deal. There's a lot of these breakdown videos out there now, and what I personally recommend is to watch as much of it as you can, because not all of us agree with one another on the nitty-gritty topics, and not all of us are Christian, but when it comes to the greater message of, hey, wake up, there's influence of Satan himself and those who openly worship Lucifer, who have come out now from behind the curtain and look, they're just people like us, but terribly deceived in spirit and in truth, and as a result, they commit atrocities like ritual sacrifice of animals and humans, abduction of children, and more horrible things, unimaginable things, like cannibalism. You think this new Drew Barrymore's cannibal comedy is just on accident? No, it's not just for fun. They're actually trying to turn society upside down so as to destroy it. And there's a lot of us waking up to the fact that this is happening, and the Super Bowl and all its festivities is an openly satanic ritual, providing demonic influence and programming of the psychology, the philosophies, and the spirit of people coming at you on the biggest stage of American sports. And if you really think about it, the traditions that surround the Super Bowl are pretty recent, with 1967 being the first Super Bowl, and the halftime shows were just marching bands until 1970 at Super Bowl IV, when Carol Channing became the first non-marching band to perform at the halftime show. Now, part of the theme of her performance was Mardi Gras, and if you dig into Mardi Gras, you'll find some really interesting things there. You have the traditional rituals of masked balls and public disguises, which was actually banned back in 1803, but then reaccepted when Mardi Gras became a national sensation in 1837. And within 20 years after that, 6 men organized a secret society called the Mystic Crew of Comus by holding a parade with the theme of the demon actors of Milton's Paradise Lost. So as you can see right from the get-go, this thing was influenced by the satanic elite, the Illuminati, whatever you want to call it. And it trickles down through society, through central banks, and then through corporations, and then into the lives of you and I. So in any case, put on the full armor of God and join me as we expose the wiles of the devil here, so as not to be devoured like a roaring lion, or be hit by the arrows of the enemy.
I'm going to be taking the spirit of many performers with me on that stage when I go up there.
Now, as many people have pointed out, Super Bowl 51 is represented with LI. And as people have pointed out, Li stands for lithium, and there's that connection to nuclear weapons. But I think nuclear weaponry in general and all of this has to do with the magical practice of alchemy. Back in 2010, 1 trillion mother lode of lithium and gold discovered in Afghanistan, which might put a whole nother spin to what we were doing there. But it's other places around the world as well. How South America's lithium triangle is gearing up to feed our battery addiction. And here it's reported that this white petroleum powers everything from electric cars to mobile phones, and half the Earth's resources come from the salt flats of Chile, Argentina, and Bolivia. Now, Chile's had a couple earthquakes in the last few years, and they say it's a big fault line, but maybe it has something to do with this lithium. And a little bit closer to home, there's a race for lithium going on in Nevada. And as some have pointed out, this lithium deposit is very close to Area 51, something that was mentioned in the recent #AvoSecrets Avocados from Mexico commercial. And then there's that song Lithium by Nirvana that we all tried to learn as kids, which is actually about manic depression. And interestingly, lithium is used to treat bipolar disorders, and while scientists aren't sure why it works so well on folks struggling with bipolar disorders, they think it's because it helps the human's clock get back to some sort of order or some sort of balance. And also, lithium has the highest electrochemical differentials. And according to modern cosmological theory, lithium was among the 3 elements synthesized in the Big Bang. And they've also claimed that it's been found in brown dwarf stars and some anomalous orange stars. And if you ever wondered what they're spraying up there, well, according to a NASA scientist on a phone call with someone that was trying to get some information out of them, they definitely admitted that they're spraying lithium in the upper atmosphere to learn about weather patterns. And then there's kind of the crazy stuff, you know, the very speculative stuff that's unverifiable or could be chalked up as just a coincidence, although I don't necessarily believe in pure coincidences. Li Ka-shing, who is number 1 in Hong Kong's 50 richest, number 33 of most powerful people in 2016. Isn't that interesting? Number 20 in billionaires, also in 2016, number 1 in Hong Kong. Net worth $30.9 billion. A heavy hitter, but definitely still small pickings in terms of the greater deep state Illuminati. But there may be something to this Li bloodline as it connects to the LI of Super Bowl 51, and that is that there is a relationship, allegedly, between Li Ka-shing and the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds. And it's interesting to connect it all together here with the alchemy that Li runs Red China, and when lithium burns, it is supposed to burn red. But jumping back to NASA here with this lithium thing, it's just a better jump off point to where I want to go next. NASA, never a straight answer. They're covering things up, and perhaps part of the propaganda is to get us ready for this alien disclosure. And why I bring that up is because Pepsi has been a sponsor for the halftime show for some years now. And from the beginning, Pepsi used the UFO alien abduction scene as part of their advertising. And why aliens and all that weird stuff brought into this discussion? Well, because some of the things that Lady Gaga herself, the performer of this year's Super Bowl halftime show, has said in the past.
Lady Gaga claims her music video tells the story of a new human race.
But there's all sorts of people all over the world with so many different views. But most importantly, I think it's about bringing people together, and the performance we did last night at the Grammys was, and what we've been doing with the egg and the rebirth. It's meant to signify an artistic statement of birthing a new race, and it's a race with no prejudice, a race within the race of humanity that bears no prejudice against anyone. So that's really the statement in itself.
Well, that's great. That's really good.
Now, this group traces their lineage back to before biblical times. They consider themselves to be a pre-Adamite race, which came from another planet. Yes, another planet. We're not talking about Scientologists here. We're talking about the Illuminati. And they believe that their bloodline traces to another planet, that they are in fact not even human beings, that they're a rival race known as Homo capensis, with significantly higher intelligence than the human race. And they actually believe this stuff, and they believe that over time, their bloodline, through breeding with human beings, that their bloodline has been diluted.
She said, and I quote, "It's the story about a birth of a new race. A race that bears no prejudice and a race that's primary sort of ambition in life is to inspire unity and togetherness."
So why is this significant? Well, Lady Gaga's promotion of a new race of humans is something we've heard before, and not just from Hitler's Nazi Germany and a superior race. In fact, Hitler himself got that philosophy from someone named Helena Blavatsky, a late 19th century occultist and author. She is the main influence of another occult author named Alice Bailey. In the book Externalization of the Hierarchy, published in 1957 by Lucius Trust, formerly Lucifer magazine, author and occultist Alice Bailey, who said she wrote all of this writing by channeling a spirit, an ascended master named Dejwa Kul, stated this, quote, "The slow and careful formation of the new group of world servers is indicative of the crisis. They are overseeing or ushering in the new age and are present at the birth pangs of the new civilization and the coming into manifestation of a new race, a new culture, and a new outlook." And then later she said, quote, "If the lives and teachings of these two great avatars can be comprehended and wrought out, the present world order, which is today largely disorder, can be so modified and changed that a new world and a new race of men can gradually come into being."
So these individuals do not worship the Judeo-Christian God, they worship Lucifer, and they consider the biblical tale of Noah's Ark. They have a very different view on that, because to them, that was their extermination. They believe that God was summoned to wipe out this rival race of wicked, that they were wiped out, this rival race which has DNA, which is non-terrestrial according to them, not according to me. So they consider Noah's Ark and that whole story, they consider that to be an act of genocide against their species carried out by the Judeo-Christian God. So at core, members of the Illuminati hate Christians, they hate Jews, and they hate Muslims because they don't like anybody who worships God.
After celebrating the bicentennial in 1976, it seems like the Super Bowl went global. In 1977, the Super Bowl was held at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena. Pasadena is the home to the Theosophical Society, which was started by Helena Blavatsky, who we just mentioned, but it was also home to JPL, the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, which was started by Jack Parsons. Parsons is known as a dark magician and occultist who ran around with L. Ron Hubbard, founder of Scientology, doing rituals like the Babylon Working that was made popular by Aleister Crowley. And the fact that Disney was involved with this halftime performance, where the entire Rose Bowl Stadium goes from an earth motif into an all-seeing eye, it's pretty clear that the New World Order was being pushed here without anybody suspecting it.
Okay, folks, welcome back to Miami and halftime of Super Bowl 23. Hope you're watching now, because here goes the first ever network broadcast in 3D. You're about to see an elaborate music and magic spectacular. It's almost too exciting to bear, isn't it? Well, if you've got the special 3D glasses, now's the time to put them on. Just in case you can't figure it out, the dark lens goes over your right eye, your right eye, your right eye. And obviously, after the show is over, you'll probably want to keep wearing these for cosmetic purposes. Hold your breath, America. It's the first commercial ever in 3D.
I'm not going to go through every year they had a Super Bowl, but in 1992 in Minneapolis, they had a giant face statue of what was said to be Lady Liberty. But this looks a lot more like Helios with the solar rays coming out of his head, the pagan form of sun worship, and something that was also mentioned by Helena Blavatsky in her occult writings. In 1995, they had the Indiana Jones theme, and what do you know, once again, that giant head statue with the missing right eye, which is a motif that is also seen on the ride Indiana Jones if you go to Disneyland. Then in the year 2000, at Super Bowl 34, they had a giant portal on the stage and a huge image that comes up that they all pretty much worship. And it's interesting because they have these giants running around almost as if they are openly displaying their alleged Nephilim bloodline. This was less than 2 years before 9/11, and in hindsight, it's pretty disturbing. And there are tons of other references you can probably find here on YouTube of breakdowns of past Super Bowls, especially recent ones. But all that being said, let's actually get into the 2017 Super Bowl halftime show featuring Lady Gaga. Before I jump in though, how creepy is that Legion commercial with the babies and the X that marks the spot if you want to watch a video about the X and the circle and how some Satanists and dark occultists believe that that is the mark of the beast. I'll leave a link in the description section. So it seemed like this one was a little bit more tame, not as blatant in the Satanism. It seems like they've scaled back on that ever since the Baphomet thing that Madonna did. It's just too obvious, but there are definitely some things going on. First off, in the Pepsi commercial, it zooms into the O, as if you're going through a portal. Portal imagery is just constant in this stuff. Then we have Gaga on top of the stadium with the light show and the drones that all appear. It was quite spectacular. The way the drones move, the way they were coordinated, this type of technological choreography is something we've never seen before, at least in the public, although the capabilities have been there for a long time. And with Gaga's relationship with Intel in the past, you guys remember the commercial where Gaga basically merges herself with the virtual cube. We know she's part of the transhumanist agenda in pushing futurism and a technological singularity and all that stuff. And then Gaga comes down from the ceiling and onto the stage. And here's where I think some of the occultic imagery lies here. First off, there are two pillars and she lands on the right one, and they're actually kind of like broken up pillars. And it definitely reminded me of 9/11. You have these two pillars, they look like they're sort of busted or broken. If it's not about the two towers, it's definitely about the two pillars, something that Freemasons and esotericists have talked about for a long time, the gateway to heaven, the astrological sign of Gemini, and the zodiac symbol, it's all there. Also interesting was these stars. Now I know there's supposed to be stars and you'd say, oh, there's nothing to it, but clearly there was a couple stars, at least one on the right side that was upside down so that it is a pentagram. No surprises there. It was actually the guy with the circular keyboard that's pretty future looking, who was sitting amidst the two spikes of the pentagram. And it's interesting that she jumped off one of them and there's smoke there. The other one is on fire. And then after this song, she moves on to the next one. And she's holding this interesting thing here. It looks like a shard of a glass or something. And it has this pink light on it. It might have something to do, an insider thing for some of her fans. I can't think of anything deliberate here. But again, you never know. There's weird stuff going on. And after she sings into it, she's handed this other thing, which is this staff that has what looks like a star at the tip of it. But she doesn't really use it. She continues on with her dance routine, which is always a little bit more provocative than it should be, but that's normal now with the mainstream. People are so used to seeing this sort of degrading behavior, it's just normal now. Now these dancers that come up to her are in black and in leather, and then these guys with these silver jackets that are just atrocious in my opinion. Then she comes out with the keytar, obviously not playing the keytar, but what was interesting about her outfit change here is her jacket. And it's quite the jacket. It's got spikes on its shoulders, it's gold plated, it's got all these jewels on it, and it definitely reminded me of a biblical passage about Satan. In Ezekiel 28, when it talks about Satan, here's what it says, starting in verse 12. You were the signet of perfection, full of wisdom and full of beauty. You were in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone was your covering, Sardis, topaz, and diamond, beryl, onyx, and jasper, sapphire, emerald, and carbuncle, and crafted in gold were your settings and your engravings. I think this is a direct reference to the fallen cherub's original covering, with the gold engravings and the precious stones that covered him. This is a clear reference to that in my opinion, which is no surprise because again, they worship Lucifer. Then Gaga brings it down, and all the people that are there have these lights that automatically moves with the program. But it's interesting here, they were trying to form what I think was a circle around Gaga where she was performing and then raise out to the people and the audience. And is this a reference to sun worship? I don't know, but it didn't look very good. It's like the people weren't sure exactly where they were supposed to be, but it was for sure some sort of pushing out or externalization of some of these ideologies. And then amidst the song, she finds an African-American woman and hugs her. I think this was a statement about the LGBTQ, all that stuff, plus the racial thing, a white woman and a black woman embracing during the Super Bowl halftime show. This was definitely staged and political. Then everything goes into red, and the dancers come out wearing white on a red backdrop. Interesting, recalling what we talked about with lithium and how it burns red, and what comes out of it are the people dressed in white. Purity out of a purging, order out of chaos. And as they all kind of merge together and become this one entity, this seems to be this concept of hive mind, this technological singularity thing that the technology companies are pushing for and want to have. But I think the creepiest part of this entire performance was this guy. This dancer definitely took the cake for creepiness in terms of the entire performance. Then, of course, a big fire finale where Gaga walks up the plank here, the stairway to heaven, where she mic drops and jumps off the ledge as sort of an homage to the stairway to heaven that they believe will take them to a place of ascension where they would become gods. And of course, you saw the drones provide the Pepsi symbol in the sky at the end of it, as well as Intel. So there you have it. Nothing super crazy or super blatant in your face, but definitely subtle things here and there that I'm sure as the days go on here, people will point out and find more stuff going on. This is just a real quick run through, but I think there's enough there to start digging in. If you want to dig into each one of these elements, you can. There's tons of information out there. There are no excuses nowadays because all the information you can find available online, and I recommend you purchase DVDs and buy books and stuff like that because you never know when information is going to start getting controlled like it already has on the internet. But I hope you got something out of this. I hope this video gives you something to think about. Despite the fact that it seemed like it was tame, remember what these folks believe and what they want to push to the public. Stay watchful, hold on to the word of God because that's the ultimate truth. Remember, the people behind programs like this hate Christians. They hate people who worship the real God. And that's why I think Lady Gaga even threw in one of her songs that talks about God, because whether it's genuine or not, we know when occultists talk about God, they're not talking about Yahweh. They're talking about Lucifer, the light bearer. Have an awesome day, guys. God bless.